Hello, friends. The 838 days of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Late yesterday evening, the head of Chechnya, Kadyrov, announced the capture of the village of Rizhivka in the Sumy region. It is located near the border, next to the Russian village of Tetkino. Kadyrov published a video on his Telegram channel showing attacks on the village. At the end of the video, Russian soldiers were shown with the Russian flag, and then a sign with the inscription Rizhivka Village Council was separately shown. The military Telegram channel Deep State reported that there were no units of the Ukrainian armed forces in Rizhivka. According to him, since 2022, the village has been located in a gray zone, and Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups regularly entered there. The Telegram channel also confirmed that the published footage shows the village of Rizhivka. But it is unclear when this video was filmed and whether the Russians are still there now. Already today, the head of the Center for Combating Disinformation under the National Security and Defense Council, Kovalenko, said that in Rizhivka on the border of the Sumy region, there was an attempt by Russia to test the defenses of the Ukrainian armed forces. He writes that as of now, this is not an offensive like the one that recently took place in the north of the Kharkiv region. There are no active actions in the border area yet. The defense forces are monitoring the situation. The enemy was defeated by fire. Does the threat of Russian actions in the border area remain? Yes, writes Kovalenko. He did not specify under whose control Rizhivka is now. Zelensky also said today that the Ukrainian armed forces are fully in control of the situation in the Sumy region. As for the village of Rizhivka, the occupier tried to carry out a propaganda operation there. As of this morning, the Russian flag in the village was destroyed. There is no presence of the occupier, Zelensky wrote. The situation in the Kharkiv direction remains tense. Ukrainian forces are successfully holding back the enemy advance, but are also launching counterattacks. In the area of the village of Glyaboki, where the advantage of Russian troops was previously observed, the defense forces carried out a counterattack, and now clashes continue on the outskirts of the village. In Vovchansk, Ukrainian troops continue to hold back the onslaught of Russian troops. In particular, the enemy is storming an aggregation plant there, which is a major defense point of the Ukrainian armed forces. Let me remind you that according to official sources, Russia is increasing reserves on its northern borders. The Center for National Resistance, part of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, stated that the Russians are transferring part of their forces from the Kherson direction to the north of the Kharkiv region. Drone operators are also sent on business trips. Ukrainian sources write about the likelihood of increased Russian attacks in the north. In the Bakhmut direction in Chasiv Yar, there is an intensification of enemy troops, which are advancing in the Kanal micro-district in the east of the city. The Russians have captured a significant part of the micro-district and are trying to break through to the Siversky-Donets-Donbas Canal, which is the line of defense of the Ukrainian forces. There are also battles for Kalinivka. In the Avdiivka sector, Russian troops advanced to Novoalexandrivka near Ocherechny, writes the military telegram channel Deep State. This is the direction to the Pokrovsk-Konstantinivka highway. According to the telegram channel, the retreat of the Ukrainian armed forces occurred due to the command of one of the territorial defense units, which did not inform its neighbors about the loss of positions. In Novoalexandrivka, Russian troops advanced along 3 streets to a depth of 1.02 kilometers. Russian troops also advanced north of Umansky, where they entrenched themselves in a forest belt to a depth of 500 meters. I know that Zelensky yesterday called the situation in the Avdiivka direction the most difficult along the entire front. Deep State talks about the chronology and analyzes the reasons for the Russian breakthrough near Ocherechny in March-April. Analysts deny rumors that the breakthrough occurred while the 47th Brigade was handing over positions to the 115th. The first problems began when a territorial defense unit, commanded by a former People's Deputy, escaped from Novo Kalinovi. Thus they endangered the flank of the neighboring battalion. This was followed by an unprepared and uncoordinated attempt at a counterattack, which ended in casualties. Russia managed to advance. Some units of the Ukrainian armed forces continued to leave their positions without permission. Others stood until the last, suffering heavy losses. Conclusion. The soldiers of the 115th Brigade on the first line took the battle and tried to save the situation, while a significant part were captured or died. The reserves of the brigade were not ready, there was no interaction, preparation for battles was also at a low level. As a result, failure of the front and unjustified losses. The entire village of Ocheretuni was lost with minimal fighting, and the defense there was not ready, just as there was no one to defend it, Deep State sums up. According to him, Russia entered Ocheretuni without much destruction, and the bulk of artillery strikes had already been carried out by the defense forces to contain the enemy's advance. The Russian Ministry of Defense today announced the capture of Staromyarsky in the Mariupol direction. Ukraine did not confirm this. The village is located on the Vremivka salient and was one of the first to be liberated by Ukrainian armed forces during the 2023 summer counteroffensive. On the Deep State map, most of the village is under Russian control. The smaller half is in the gray zone. Only on a couple of southern streets was the presence of Ukrainian armed forces noted. The General Staff does not mention this direction in its latest report. In a few weeks, Ukraine will begin testing its adjustable aerial bombs. This was stated by the head of the Center Air Command of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Golubtsov. According to him, a wing and a control module have been developed. Navigation will be carried out using GPS. He added that Ukraine currently uses about 100 to 300 precision-guided bombs per month, while Russia uses about 3,000. Ukraine is still using foreign-made bombs. In addition, according to Golubtsov, Ukraine was able to integrate French AISM-250 bombs onto Su-25 attack aircraft. This means that the number of carriers of such bombs among the Ukrainian armed forces may increase. I note that the main problem with guided bombs is the availability of aircraft that are capable of dropping them. Russia uses such aerial bombs en masse due to its superiority in aviation over Ukraine. Golubtsov also said that some F-16s transferred to the Ukrainian armed forces will be deployed not in Ukraine. Judging by his words, these planes will not take off from foreign airfields to carry out combat missions in Ukraine. Some of them will remain in those centers where our pilots and aviation personnel are trained. There is a certain number of aircraft that will be stored at safe air bases, not in Ukraine, so that they will not be targets here. And this will be our reserve in case necessary to replace faulty aircraft during routine maintenance. That is, so that we can constantly have a certain number of aircraft in operation, which will correspond to the number of pilots we will have. There will be more aircraft in Ukraine, said Golubtsov. In turn, Russia said that F-16 aircraft and their airfields outside Ukraine would become a legitimate target for Russia if they participate in combat missions. This was stated by the head of the Military Committee of the State Duma of Russia, Kartapolov. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.